Welcome everyone to the Fuel Jetstream Media IndyCar series here for the twin races here tonight. Two 25-lap races are up on the plan at least for tonight. I forgot how words work for a second. As per usual, this is the Racing Line Broadcasting Network bringing you the 9th race of this season, the second twin race of the season as well. Let's see what happens here at this tech track here on iRacing. So, welcome once again to the Racing Line Broadcasting Network. We are here at Long Beach. It's going to be quite interesting. Again, the only tech track here that's actually being used, and a tech track that's been begged for multiple years to actually be finished. But unfortunately, that is not the case. And while we're going to see how this track plays out today, as per usual, as I almost went into two sentences there at once, as per usual, I am your sort of one-man crew here for the week, and by sort of, I'll explain that in a second. But, well, it's me as per usual. Gary Weaver doing the half of the commentary and production. Doing the second half is Eric Gonzalez. He is back once again. So, Eric, this is going to be a pretty interesting race as we have just under a minute left in qualifying. So, hopefully you can guess. There he is.
Hey! This should be a very interesting race. Mitch Welker, as we've seen, has been very quick on the road courses. We're going to see if anyone can try to challenge him today. Again, two very short races, relatively speaking, for the Fuel Racing League, so we're going to be interested to see how that plays out. But it's really going to be Mitch versus the world here, and if anyone can beat him, it's going to be a good show.
Yeah, you definitely are correct in that case. And someone actually just now beat his lap time and almost getting into the 1 minute 7 second range is Zachary Buchanan just at the last second. So we will go over your starting grid here for this race. This first of two races, projected race length is half an hour. So could have about an hour total race coming up on our hands here for the night. So going through your entire 22-car starting grid, it's going to be a rolling start here for tonight's race as well as per usual. The new Porsche pace car is back on the racetrack. As the wrong camera angle, unfortunately. There we go. So starting on the front row, and I believe this is actually correct in terms of, no, it is not. Oh well, but starting on the front row, it will be Zachary Buchanan and Mitch Welker starting first and second. Buchanan nearly getting into the 1 minute 7 second range for his lap time, a 1 minute 8 second, 1 minute 8.2 second flat lap time. Congratulations to him on the pole. Marshall Stanley starts third place. Ryan Kish fourth place, and running at the top five will be Andrew Wood. Chad Frankenfield starting sixth. Seventh place is Colin Evans. Eighth place is James Pasquarella. Ninth place Carl Handwerk. And riding at the top 10 is Matthew Warner. The rest of your 12th car field is going to be Travis McQuiston and Jared Dixon in 11th and 12th place. 13th is going to be Danny Roberts. 14th is Dylan Lee, who unfortunately most notably had some troubles during practice earlier on. Jack Endrick in 15th. 16th is Matt Hollabaugh, who also had a little bit of trouble during practice. 17th is Brendan Minto. 18th is Michael P. Hurley. Chris Matthews starts in 19th. Evan Adams rounds out your top 20. Don Runkle Jr. starts in the 21st. And rounding out your 22-car field here for this race is going to be Will Roberts. And appropriate timing as the pace car just now decides to roll off here Love that paint scheme. All that needs is a spoiler, and it is good. And unfortunately, just now realized that the graphic was up this entire time. Oh my goodness. Massive apologies for that one. And that's why the readout of the starting grid is also a thing. So it looks like a single file main start here as pace car goes through the hairpin. Just anticipating the start of this race. As pace car pulls off into pit road, it's going to be double file, and a few drivers are going to be left behind here. But Zachary Buchanan nonetheless brings the field to the green flag. And we are underway here at Long Beach. And already a very quick single file formation down heading into turns 1 and 2. We'll keep a look at Zachary Buchanan here as they head down into the corners. Going into the fountain turn as well, just past the fountain as well, and I'm going to be heading into the first of many right-hand turns. Down the back straightaway they go here in just a few moments' time.
As they head down into turn number 9 down the east side shoreline, it's going to be Zachary Buchanan, Mitch Wilker, Michael Stanley, Ryan Kish, your top 4. Zachary Buchanan going to be chased down by Mitch Welker, not going to be able to make the move here. Not going to be able to get close enough to make a move. As we go back down the field, Cohen Evans looking to make a move on James Pasquarella, not going to be close enough yet again. Everybody's still single file as they head down into the hairpin.
And heading down into the final few corners and back onto the front straightaways, there's a massive gap between a majority of your field here, and a little bit of contact actually, it looks like, between Matthew Warner and Carl Hendrick there through the hairpin. You have to be very careful through that section of the racetrack, especially since you're so close to multiple drivers there. As you see Evan Adams and multiple other drivers just try to get through as smooth and quickly as possible.
Trouble in the back. It's going to be Travis McQuistion and Jared Dixon who get into it. Jared Dixon has some some heavy damage to the front end of that. I don't know if that's going to take him out of the race, but it is going to send him to pit.
And let's see what happened here on this replay. It looks like it may have been a separate incident, but we'll find out. Jared Dixon we're taking a look at, and no, they actually did make contact. Hard shot into the, essentially the runoff area. Then we see Travis McQuiston starting to make his way through as well, and he just overshoots the corner and spins around a little bit. So, not exactly, trouble for both drivers in a sense, and luckily for them, it was not involving each other. So we'll see what happens here as they head back down the front straightaway, the very long front straightaway, curved, not even a straightaway in a sense, but Zachary Buchanan is almost a second in the lead here as he makes his way back down the first couple of corners.
I hate to bring up another incident, but there has been one. It's going to be Chris Matthews, Jack Anderek, and it looks like who else was involved? I'm not finding that other car, but there were a few cars that were involved in that incident.
And we also saw Michael P. Hurley that was actually also uninvolved in that incident. So we'll take a look to see what happened to Hurley here in a few moments as we're going to take a look at this first incident between Jack Andrick and other drivers. As the replay comes up, gets tagged, hard shot from behind as it's Will Roberts that's also involved, and Chris Matthews, unfortunately, also involved. Michael P. Hurley, another one of the drivers that was uninvolved. Looks like he just barely overshot the exit. So nothing too major for him as he'll get that vehicle back going. But unfortunately, though, multiple drivers getting out early on. But this is actually not going to help them out later on in this race due to the fact that, well, your finishing order is going to be the starting grid for this next 25-lap event. So Buchanan again leads the field through turns, well, essentially fountain corners and the opening corners of this race. Top 6 being Zachary Buchanan, Mitch Welker, and Marshall Stanley. Ryan Kish is in 4th place. 5th place, Andrew Wood. 6th place, Colin Evans.
Well, we said at the top of the race it was going to be crazy to watch these guys in the short shootout, and I think it's kind of lived up to that expectation.
And for sure has lived up to that expectation. Essentially, it's just very spread out. It's more of a survival race, and it's both a survival endurance race in a sense, as Evan Adams is having trouble. Looks like he overshot the opening corner, unfortunately. And we'll see what happened here. I've been trying to do some personal laps at the same time, trying to see what lap times we could get. And there goes Adams. Doesn't look like he hits the wall from that angle. I don't believe he did. Yeah, it does not look like he actually hit the wall. So he did luck out there, and that's why there's a whole bunch of runoff there. So these lap times go by very, very quickly, about 1 minute and 8 seconds, essentially going by just instantly. So again, possibly a caution-free race could happen here, but again, there's always a chance at a full course yellow if there were to be a wreck that blocks the track, as Hurley is around once again in the final few corners, the second to last turn essentially, heading towards the hairpin. Hurley not having a lot of luck at this racetrack, unfortunately, and we'll see what happens to him here. Third to last corner, looks like he just overshoots and, well, not exactly overshoots, but puts too much throttle in. And a very smart move to have him roll out of the racing line as well, just in case anyone was going to go by. So, very smart move by Hurley, and, well, thankfully, he still hasn't hit any walls as of yet. And, well, as I say that out loud, commentator's curse 101, that's probably going to happen to him in a few moments.
Well, up at the front of the pack, Zachary Buchanan, Mitch Welker, and Marshall Stanley.
Handwork is around.
Also,
and Handwork around in the final couple of corners. As, again, it's just multiple drivers not having the best of luck here, as looks like for Handwork, we'll see what happens to him, and this right-hander breaks down, heats up the brakes, you see, and just loops the car around about sideways 90 degrees. Luckily, again, he gets it back going, so just a lot of small errors here that everyone is making.
Well, up at the front of the field, it's Zachary Buchanan, Elker, and Marshall Stanley, the top three, all covered by half a second. It seems like they're all catching up to each other in certain parts of the track, but they're just not able to get by each other. No room to make the pass stick.
Yeah, also it could be the fact that some of these drivers are trying to at least maybe outrace other drivers, outbreak. You see how close Stanley got to Welker there in the hairpin, and look at how much of the momentum he's lost from that. Not even lost, essentially, but more how much of acceleration Mitch Welker had gotten. It's just the timing that Stanley had. Unfortunately, it just was not enough to really keep up for the time being as they head back down to the opening corners once again. As we see Mitch Welker going by the fountain turn, same with Stanley not too far behind. And Ryan Kish following through, Cohen Evans rounding out the top 5. As James Pasquarella and Matthew Warner could be having a little bit of a battle of their own in a few laps. Keeping an eye on this battle, Warner looks to the right-hand side but does not make the move. There's definitely going to be taking his time for sure here in these next few laps, but I wouldn't be surprised if Warner tried to make a little bit of a move, at least look to the inside or look to an opening just a little bit more often, maybe play some mind games with Pasquarella, maybe make Pasquarella defend and mess up his entry. Oh, nearly clips the tire barriers there off that corner. Looks back to the right-hand side, but not enough momentum. He's not close enough to really get to the inside. Oh, that 77 he spins around. Yep, never mind. Well, at least he didn't hit he barely nudged the wall there. Oh, that's gonna, yeah, that definitely bent the spoiler for sure without a clutch kick to kick that car around as quickly as possible while using the clutch. So he's definitely gonna be having a little bit of aero issues here after that. Yep, that's, oh man, handwork. Saw barely on the edge of the screen there. So Buchanan is in pit road. He's had some massive issues. I'll take a look as we are keeping an eye on that. The entry corner past the lap car, overshoots and, well, doesn't overshoot, but nails the wall. So unfortunately, that is it for Buchanan for this race as he ends up upside down for this race. So now in control is your past season champion, Mitch Welker, and the only way we know that as well, he's got the number 1. So Marshall Stanley is now in second. He's got some left front wing damage, as well as Ryan Kish, who just rounds out your third place position. My goodness. It's been an interesting open, how many laps has it been so far? 9 laps. That's how much it's been, apparently. So, that's, it's been an interesting opening 9 laps for this race. I will say that for sure.
No, it's that short race thing. You know, you gotta try and make up as many positions as you can, and then sometimes it comes back to bite you.
Yeah, Travis McQuiston gonna go way out of the way of Mitch Walker here. Possibly the same for Marshall Stanley. Stanley almost overshoots and nails the back of McQuiston. So McQuiston now is unfortunately 1 lap down here, but he is in 10th place, so that could benefit him for this next race that we have coming up, and after a 5-minute break in between. And Pasquarello still has that little bit of wing damage, and we'll see if we can get a that's the wrong camera angle. There we go. Yep. Yeah, that's definitely gonna hurt his arrow just a little bit, unfortunately. However, on the bright side for him, he's directly behind Carl Handwerk. Well, maybe not, because he just barely went a little bit wide on that corner exit. So that broken, that bent spoiler definitely playing into effect. Running on board here with Mitch Walker as he goes down the straightaway, short straightaway essentially, for the second half of the track. You can see how far Marshall Stanley is from him as we run on board Stanley as well. Multiple straightaways and very tight corners here at Long Beach. And take a look at the steering wheel of Marshall Stanley here. As I head down into the hairpin, Stanley gets within a car length of Mitch Walker, and immediately Walker is just down on the power and away. 15 laps to go, surprisingly. Very quick race here so far. Cohen Evans also running into some problems. He is immediately towed back to pit road. And we'll see here what has happened to Cohen Evans in the 17 as looks like coming into the final corners. We'll see left-hander nudges the tire barrier and flips right over and lands on his roof as well. Immediately tows it back to pit road. So multiple drivers are out. Some didn't even start, unfortunately. I don't believe some even, it's either that or some possibly did not complete a lap, as we will go back live here to your leader, Mitch Walker, and second place, Marshall Stanley, who's not too far behind. Oh, he slid through that corner for a second. Definitely heard those tires getting worn down there through that corner.
You can definitely tell Marshall Stanley is trying to push to catch up to Mitch. Mitch Welker just running a nice, smooth, and consistent race, and you know, he's just been able to put the car where he wants it to be, and been able to pretty much hold him back. I say that, and he gets into the wall. Hey, commentator's curse on me this time.
Oh man, Stanley nearly got that right-hander, that wall that just barely juts out of the fountain turn. He nearly got that, so he's a little bit loose, as you can see him, just with a little bit of a bobble as well. So this could maybe play into effect for Marshall Stanley. It could play into a little bit of an advantage here, as you see their previous lap times on the right-hand side of their name. 0.3 second difference advantage. He's at the start-finish line and went to Mitch Walker. This time by, well, it might go to Stanley. We'll find out. So through the final corners, as you can see, the left-hand or the right-hand side of the front wing for Mitch Walker is incredibly gone. So across the start-finish line there, as the lap times show advantage going to Marshall Stanley by 0.4 seconds. 0.4 tenths of a second. Well, 4 tenths of a second, right? We want to title it as. So this could show that Marshall Stanley, actually, no, he may have clipped the wall as well. I'm seeing his left front wing being gone as well. And it could be a little bit of an even match here between those two.
Mitch Walker going to be trying to do what Graham Rahal couldn't do in the real-life IndyCar series a few years ago at Barber. He's going to try and win damage front wing, but as you said, apparently it's come back, at least on my screen. But Marshall Stanley gets in the wall. I don't know if you caught that, but it might even itself out that they both have a little bit of damage.
Yeah,
or they don't. I don't know what's going on.
I don't believe they do. It's a little bit of the prediction code in iRacing saying that, oh wait, so they don't actually have physical damage as they didn't hit this object hard enough. So I was reading about that on the forums one day, so that's how I know about that. So, yeah, so they don't actually have damage, it seems, as, well, iRacing prediction code has fixed itself and it re-corrected the error that has been shown. So that could have been just a little bit of an near miss. I think Welker there was a little bit of a bobble there on the entry. They're incredibly close there to these walls here. This would make me uncomfortable. I don't believe I would actually be able to survive a street circuit for this long, but these two are definitely putting on a show for sure, as the timing between them is about 0.6 seconds once again.
Well, I can tell you there's a reason I'm up here in the booth with you and not down there on the streets along.
Yeah, you should. You should. Welker caught a cone. He's trying to shake it from his vehicle. There it goes. And Welker caught a cone there for a second. Just saw it under
caught
his
a cone
vehicle.
again, I think, or he kept the... And there it goes. Okay.
Yeah, there's somebody around. That is Will Roberts in the hairpin. Actually, correction, that is not Will Roberts in the hairpin. That's for sure a dark red vehicle. We'll see who that was in the hairpin. That was either stalled or spun around. That was definitely somebody for sure. It was actually Evan Adams in the 59. We'll see what happened to him here. Left-hand turn and just way too hot coming into the hairpin. Manages to get back going and then just noses it into the tire barriers. So decides to just sit here and let the leaders by and then goes at the correct time just to make sure that he doesn't really get in anybody's way. So no bit of an overshoot for Evan Adams as he is currently 4 laps down, and just in front of him, just as we were about to go back live, Michael P. Hurley has spun around again. So this is again a replay. As we are just about to go back live, Hurley spins it around for, I believe, the 3rd time this race, unfortunately.
It just seems like the two teammates from All-American iRacers just not having the
best day, yeah. So it's going to be 10 laps to go. Advantage to Mitch Welker here. As, oh man, alright. I thought Marshall Stanley was going to nose into the outside wall there, but as we have 10 laps to go this time, but I just want to remind everyone that the only the race winners will be interviewed here, just as we did at Richmond. It's only going to be the race winners at the complete end of the night, although might switch it up and interview Mitch Walker here just at the very end, but we do want him to get his practice in, so definitely at the very end of the night for sure, just to make sure, as James Pasquarella is going to be in line to get put a lap down, but appropriately enough, the 77 of Pasquarella is in 7th place, as Stanley had a very huge bobble there, barely saw it on the bottom of the screen there. But Stanley had a very wild ride through that right-hander. We'll see what shows here, as he is about 20 degrees to the right-hand side where he doesn't want to be going. He is definitely pushing that car, as we said, Eric.
Yeah, well, I can tell you Mitch Welker might have the time advantage, but Marshall Stanley has the push-to-pass advantage. Marshall Stanley has 2 remaining, as where Mitch Welker only has 1 push left.
Yeah, so if hopefully Stanley could time it correct, maybe at the right moment, then he should be able to he should at least be able to catch up to Mitch Welker and capitalize from there, but we'll find out as Welker once again goes back into the opening corners excuse me, of this racetrack, as just those walls drilling out here in this fountain turn. That, oh gosh, why would that stresses me out, just in case no one has noticed yet, but my goodness, that is, even I've gotten close to that. As another driver is around, that is Carl Handwerk in the 18 with absolutely no back spoiler existing on that vehicle whatsoever. In fact, that has been gone apparently. And that could contribute to him, as well as the small amount of banking change there, essentially, or at least the bumpiness there on that corner exit. Could be contributing to him spinning around. So unfortunately, the 18 is around with a little bit more damage than more than likely than he wanted. Marshall Stanley getting in a little bit of lot traffic in the form of James Pasquarella, but getting by just fine as both drivers make their way by with 8 laps to go.
Advantage to Marshall Stanley, bringing that gap down from 1.5 seconds to 1.2.
And looking at the lap times as well, is about 3/10 of a second advantage to Stanley as well. So either maybe he's just pushed the pass, or just got a little bit lucky there that time around, as Mitch Welker may have caught a little bit. Wow, Stanley is really pushing that as much as he can. He's going to end up, I'm not going to finish that sentence actually, just to avoid the commentator's curse. So I'm not even going to imply whatsoever, just not even going to risk it. But Stanley, however, hanging on to second place as much as he can. But we're completely forgetting the rest of these drivers here. Ryan Kish in third place. He started in fourth, so had a very quiet day so far. He's all in his lonesome, unfortunately, but he's got about a 17-second gap, 18-second gap, actually, between himself and fourth place of Matthew Warner, who started in 10th place, so 6 positions up for Warner. Great job by him so far. And a 52-second gap between himself and Matt Hollabaugh, who starts 16th, and he's going to nearly spin it out, as it looks like it's Michael P. Hurley as well, who just overshot the opening corner again. So Matt Hollabaugh drifting 11 positions up into turn number 1, as Michael P. Hurley just not having the best luck again, but he is hanging on to it, so props to him. He's still in the top 10 as well, as Mitch Welker is just behind him, same with Marshall Stanley, as we have 6.5 laps to go, actually. Getting lapped is Michael P. Hurley in the 56. As the gap between these front 2 runners has closed once again, as it's 0.8 seconds now, as it advantage a little bit towards Mitch Welker. Let's see what it shows as, wow, going wide and trying to take the very quickest line here around this racetrack. He may have used his push to pass, gets to the back bumper, and it barely makes it. Could have tagged him there, and Marshall Stanley was insanely close for about not even a car length separating both of those drivers. Lap times across the start-finish line, advantage again to Marshall Stanley by 0.2 of a second, but how long can Marshall Stanley keep that up is my question.
From my perspective, it looks like Marshall Stanley still has 2 push-to-pass remaining, and Mitch Welker with 1, but I don't know how accurate that graphic is, or at least the iRacing steering wheels.
We'll see how that plays out, actually. Mitch Welker could be saving that just for a bit later on in this race. More than likely the last lap for sure, as Hollabaugh could be getting lapped here in just a few moments. P5 at the moment for the O2 machine, but he's
almost around. Ooh.
Great save, and keeps it off all 3 walls, I should say, around that hairpin section.
I can tell you, as a leader in a race, it is not what you want to see to have a driver spinning or almost spinning in front of you. It'll definitely make your heart stop.
Oh yeah, no, personal experience as well. That's definitely something you don't want to have.
And Mitch into the wall, turn 1.
Yep, we focused on him, and that's definitely going to capitalize, or Marshall Stanley's going to try and capitalize on that as much as possible, but unfortunately it's not going to be the case, as somehow, some way, Mitch Welker manages to pull away, as that's an unintentional rhyme right there, but may be having a little bit of left front wing damage. Driver's left front wing damage for Mitch Welker. As far as the camera goes, it's on the right-hand side. You can see that bent up just a little bit. So Mitch Welker may start to use his push to pass a little bit earlier on, but I don't know. He's trying to hang on to it. He may be choking under pressure just a little bit, but he is definitely trying to push that car as much as possible and try and keep that lead as far as possible between himself and Stanley. And the hairpin always closes up like that, and Welker gets the best advantage off the corner. As lap times across the start-finish line, actually, not going to read out the full lap time, as looks to be 0.3 second advantage towards Marshall Stanley. Minute 9 seconds for both drivers, but it's minute 9.3 for Welker, minute 9.0.
And Marshall Stanley into the wall, it looks like.
May have clipped the wall, as the left front tire, the left front wing, it's pretty much gone off of that vehicle. There was a very slight nudge. It didn't look too major, so it may reappear in Iverson's prediction code here in a few laps. I'll find out.
It also looks like Mitch's damage fixed itself.
Nearly rear-ended accident. Yeah, definitely for sure. Nearly rear-ended Travis McQuiston, who was definitely getting out of the way in time, so at least from the onboard camera that we saw from Stanley.
Speaking of Marshall Stanley, apparently iRacing's prediction code is not the best in the world. His wing damage has just fixed itself.
No, it's the internet with multiple connections. What do you expect?
This is true.
So 3 laps to go this time around. As coming across the start-finish line, it will be Mitch Welker in first, Marshall Stanley second. Third place, Ryan Kish. He's a little ways back. He's about 28 seconds, almost 29 seconds back from Marshall Stanley. And Matthew Warner in fourth place, could be getting lapped here in just a couple of laps at his current pace at the moment. So it could be, at this point, only the top 3 being on the lead lap by the end of this race. And once again, Marshall Stanley not at the best advantage, so Mitch Walker may have used his final push to pass, but we get a correction on that in just a few moments, as goodness gracious, Marshall Stanley, I swear he nailed that tire barrier off the corner, or at least he was close to hitting that thing from that camera angle there in the background. He's trying to hang on as much as possible, and he's doing a great job at that, but it's 1.5 seconds between himself and between Welker and Stanley, as it could be extending here in just a couple of moments as timing resets itself. In that very close moment that both of those two had, looks to be a 0.4 second gain to Marshall Stanley, and it immediately drops back to 1.4 seconds. So 2 laps to go. It's going to be 1 lap to go at the start-finish line. Stanley still pushing that vehicle as much as he can, but with about a 1 second gap, it may not be enough. It could be enough. And it's just debatable at this point. Just something that I'll have to wait to find out.
Well, I'm going to reluctantly say Mitch Welker has had a very commanding race. Once he got the lead, he is able to just run his line, put the car where he needed it, and he's looks like he's going to be coming away with it. I don't want to say he's going to win it yet, but
once he comes off,
if he wrecks, I'll take it.
Yeah, speaking of that, I mean, he wouldn't be the only one, as your original pole sitter, Zachary Buchanan, wrecked out very early on in this race, about the 3rd lap in, as we were on the white flag this time around. And your original pole sitter, Zachary Buchanan, in the 40, wrecked out early on in this race. And while Walker and Stanley were 2nd and 3rd at the time, now they're running 1st and 2nd. Ryan Kish can round out 3rd place for sure at the end of this, as I believe Stanley may have caught the wall there off of that corner, but closing moments of this race.
A little bit of a wiggle for Mitch Welker.
Yeah, Welker is trying to push that as much as possible. So is Stanley. 0.6 seconds separate both of these drivers as they come down into these final corners. It may be Mitch Welker for this first race, however. Coming to the final corners, Stanley trying to charge in as much as possible. Nearly may have cut the course there, actually. I try one last attempt here in the hairpin. Looks to the right-hand side. Doesn't get it done. And off the corner, it will be Mitch Welker coming home in first place for sure. Marshall Stanley directly behind him finishes in 2nd place for sure. Finishing 3rd will be Ryan Kish as he's making his way around. And this is not the only race that we have. We'll have a second race here in just a few moments' time, but I'll definitely take a look at your finishing results here. As Ryan Kish in 3rd place comes through these final corners for himself, about 40 seconds back from that second place. Not too bad of a run, though, for Ryan Kish, as he will come off the final corner of the hairpin, down the very long front straightaway, crosses the start-finish line that time by, officially finishing in third place. So we'll hold off onto the, I think Mitch Welker spun out just a little bit, but we'll hold off on displaying the finishing results graphic, as Matthew Warner may have wrecked out, I believe. But Matt Hollabaugh still making his way through as well for 5th place. I think Matthew Warner may run out of fuel, actually. Not 100% sure, but I'll figure out what the official scoring says here as the 5-minute break is underway, or at least in my case, or our case it is. But the final results for your first race is as follows, being Mitch Welker in first place after capitalizing and holding off Marshall Stanley after Zachary Buchanan unfortunately wrecked out early on. Marshall Stanley finishes in 2nd place, not too far behind. Ryan Kish, the only driver as well, the last driver on the lead lap, finishes in 3rd. Matthew Warner finishes 4th. Matt Hollabaugh 5th. And we have James Pasquarella, Carl Handwerk, Chas McQuiston, Brendan Minto, Michael P. Hurley rounding out 6th through 10th. Michael Hurley spinning about 4 times throughout the race, manages to get a top 10, so props to him, as we have Evan Adams finishing in 11th, Don Runkle Jr. 12th, Cohen Evans, Zachary Buchanan, and Andrew Wood 13th, 14th, and 15th. Jack Endrick finishes one of the few drivers to wreck out early, one of the many drivers, I should say, in a sense. Jack Endrick, Will Roberts, Chris Matthews, Jared Dixon, Chad Frankenfield, 16th through 20th, not finishing. Denny Roberts and Dylan Lee did not start this event. So we'll keep the picture up, but it's going to be a little bit of a actually at this point, a 3.5 minute break here for the Racing Line Broadcasting Network. So there's anyone that actually does choose to practice, which I don't believe anybody will. We'll go ahead and start our break here in just a few moments, so stay tuned. We'll be back for the second race here in just about 3 minutes and 20 seconds time. Don't go anywhere.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
And we are back live here at the Long Beach Speedway here. Temporary loss of picture because we're getting things double checked just to make sure everything properly works out. So we're here with race winner, at least the race one winner, Mitch Walker, and unfortunately a fancy little slow motion video is not available, but nonetheless, they did manage to pull off a great race, great 25 laps, holding off Marshall Stanley in those closing laps. How many did you even use any of your push to passes is one of my first questions, and did you even decide to save one for those final laps?
I used 5 of them during the race. I had to watch the fuel actually because it was close enough to where if you used all the push to passes, you might be close on fuel. So I was kind of watching that at the same time, but near the end, I knew I was good, so I started using a few more of them, and yeah, I used around 5.
Definitely did work out for sure, and well, you definitely had a good race going in. Started second going in, hopefully, as I unfortunately don't have timing available at the moment. But
That's correct.
yeah, you only did start second. So what was your reaction when Buchanan had pretty much just lost it entering the fountain turn?
I hate it for him because he qualified on pole rightfully, and he's really quick. He just, mistakes happen, and it's a shame for him because I'd have loved to fight him.
Yeah, definitely would have been interesting for sure. Definitely a little bit of a entertaining race as well. So before we go ahead and let you go get ready for the second twin race here of the night, is there anyone I could speak English for a second? Is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for your first place finish?
Yeah, my girlfriend. Thanks for tuning in again, watching me win again. Seeing if you get luck charm.
Oh, good luck is always the best thing to have. So we're going to go ahead and let you go. Congratulations again on your first place finish here for this first race.
Thanks.
So just as a clarification once again that we will have a second race here coming up in just a few moments. A little bit more of a delay than anticipated, unfortunately. Everything should be getting set up here in just a couple of moments. So apologies for the lack of any picture whatsoever, essentially, aside from this graphic that we have, which gives me an idea, actually. So that should be a new thing. As everything should be properly set up. Unless I'm reading this incorrectly, we have possibly at least 5 minutes here. So we're going to double check that timing really quickly, just to make sure that we're not going to be here for a while. So quick second, your picture is back up, so we'll double check to see how much time we actually have left. So we should be going back live here in just a, or sorry, not going back live. We should be going back racing here in just a few moments' time. So it's not going to be too long before we get back racing, thankfully, Eric. And, well, just waiting for everyone to get back into their race cars after that little bit of a cleanup on the track that we had to do. So could be seeing, I am not sure, actually. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here, at least in this second race.
Yeah, they had to clean up all that debris from the cars on that were wrecking into turn 8 there. Yeah, but no, this race might be a little bit more chaotic than it was the first race. Everybody's made it in, or everybody's was playing it a bit safe, trying to well, I say trying not to wreck, as half the field wrecked. But this race is probably going to be a little bit more gloves off. There's not a lot to hold on to this time around. So, you know, we might see a few more daring moves going into turn 1 or turn 9. So it should be an interesting one.
Maybe even the hairpin as well. That could be my prediction, but I don't think somebody would really try to risk it that much. It would be tempting, as from a driver's standpoint, it's tempting to do, but you also have to have the common sense.
Is,
yeah, you have to have the common sense of, do I really want to do this and make somebody mad at me? No.
I mean, if it's the last lap, I can definitely see someone going ahead and doing that. But I think there was a gentleman's agreement amongst all the drivers to try and not dive bomb that turn. That's kind of just a commonsensical thing that I think a lot of them would want to.
As well as I believe turn 1 as well. I may be wrong on that one, but definitely the hairpin for sure. I remember that. As that was actually discussed a little bit earlier on, before we fully went on the air, so we will be here for quite a while, possibly another about 3 minutes, I'm assuming, before we go back racing, but we'll see if the starting grid is available. That's what I'm hoping for, at least, and it is not available at the moment, so that's wonderful. So we'll just see how everyone lines up here in just a few laps. It may not be the finishing order of the first race, but at least it's a lineup. So while practice is underway, we have Danny Roberts. Actually, was he in the first race? I believe he was, unless that's just me. Maybe incorrect. Same red car as Zachary Buchanan, but Danny Roberts is actually on the pole here, next in position number 1 for this warm-up session that we have going on at the moment. And looks like we'll actually be going green and racing here in about less than 10 seconds, essentially. We'll be gridding in less than 10 seconds. So we'll see what comes of that. As your starting grid is getting reset, estimation kicking in through gridding on ATVO. And it is going to be the finishing order of the previous race. So we have, displaying incorrectly, unfortunately, as this unfortunately skipped the front row, but it's the finishing order of the previous race. So first row is going to be Mitch Welker and Marshall Stanley first and second. Unfortunately, the graphic advanced a little bit earlier on than intended. Ryan Kish, Matthew Warner, third and fourth. Rounding out the top 5, it's going to be Matt Hollabaugh. 6th place is James Pasquarella. Carl Handwerk starts in the 7th place position. 8th place going to be Travis McQuiston. 9th place, Brendan Minto. 10th place, Michael Hurley. Evan Adams, Don Runkle Jr., 11th and 12th. 13th and 14th going to be Cohen Evans and Zachary Buchanan. 15th and 16th, Andrew Wood and Jack Andrick. 17th and 18th going to be Will Roberts, Chris Matthews. 19th and 20th, Jared Dixon and Chad Frankenfield. Danny Roberts, who set the fastest lap for a few moments there in practice, the impromptu practice session that we had, starts in 21st. So the pace car makes its way through the hairpin, killing its tires in the process. We'll see what comes of this. Remember, full course cautions are possible, but we have not seen them come into effect as of yet. As the back half of the field still making its way through the hairpin, but Mitch Welker brings the field to the green flag as we are underway for the second time tonight. So immediately side by side between a few drivers heading into turns 1 and 2 here. In just a couple of moments, it will be side by side. Somebody goes off the racetrack. That is Matthew Warner, unfortunately. He went wide and luckily uses that runoff area to his advantage, as unfortunately he is pretty much out of the running already early on, back to 21st, as it sounds like there's multiple drivers. Full course caution has been displayed. Well, I did mention that a few drivers are stacked up in the fountain turn here. We'll see what has caused that in just a couple of moments. Looks to be on the exit as well.
It looks like it was, looks like Michael Hurley was involved in.
Yeah, he definitely was for sure. So replay coming up on your screen. Hurley on the leftmost portion of your screen as gets into the actual fountain itself. Drivers stopped on the racetrack, which makes sense for the caution to come out. And a few other drivers gained damage. I believe Will Roberts, Will Roberts has some heavy damage. And unfortunately, he's going to have to retire that car. There's a little bit of contact just after that as well. So unfortunately, full course caution is out early on in this race, and your first full course caution that we've seen so far. And I believe that's what I get for mentioning the fact that the pace car is going to be off for possibly the final time tonight. So that one was on me. As the pace car is out on the racetrack for the time being. Should be at least one lap of caution, I believe, and then caution lights go out on the back straightaway, although I may be incorrect. But we'll find out. So laps will be counted under caution here, as we are under caution for the first time tonight. So as we're also under caution, might as well at least take advantage to promote the upcoming races here on the Racing Line Broadcast Network while there is time. Why, for some reason, photos are not available for the next fuel race, which is honestly very terrible, but on my part at least. But the next fuel Jetstream Media IndyCar Series League race is going to be on Michigan, or at Michigan, for 125 laps. That is April 18th, live at the usual time of 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And then coming up this coming Sunday is the return of the Flat Out Racing League, as well, they are back at Auto Club Speedway, or they are at Auto Club Speedway. First race with essentially the new package. Second race with a new package where we can see what can really happen there at Chicagoland. It'll be pretty interesting to see what comes of that race. Fourth race of 10, I believe, as well. And then Monday, it will be the Red Light Scrambler Series with an interesting 8-driver field, 8 playoff drivers in the trucks as well. So essentially the point of that Scrambler Series is, well, you have the top 3 Cup Series. At one point, they even used the K&N Series over at Stafford back at one race in February. And in case you're wondering, those 8 drivers for those playoffs is DJ Anderson, Tim Blum, Leo Bordage, Sean Butler, who has won 7 races this past season, William Long, Richard Murdoch, James Skelton, and Max Terrio. So Sean Butler and Max Terrio, both the most dominant drivers in that league this season. It's going to be quite interesting to see what they can do there at Bristol. But kind of focused on this race right now, and we'll see if the lights go out this time by here on the pace car at the start-finish line. So, bad luck turned to worse, unfortunately, for Michael Hurley. As, well, he spun around multiple times in the first race. Wasn't anything bad. This race is pretty much done, unfortunately, as, well, he's got very heavy damage on that wing for sure. So pace car makes its way through the hairpin. Lights should be out this time around, so at least two pace laps here for this first and only full course caution that we've had for the night.
Now, I'm just noticing this, but I think this is definitely a punishment for the drivers, and that might convince them to clean it up a bit. The pace speed is currently 28 miles an hour.
Oh dear.
That's excruciating. You think that pit speed is bad normally? Oh my.
Yeah, pit speed. I mean, the lowest pit speed is usually, I believe, what, 30 miles an hour on the service. So at some tracks, at this track, it's 40 miles an hour pit road speed, and you can see Mitch Welker's speed there on the top left of this graphic at the bottom of your screen here. 27 miles an hour. So we can't really get the speed of the pace car, unfortunately, because this will happen, and it doesn't really count as an actual driver. So we do have Mitch Welker to go off of here for his speed. So about 30 to 20 to 30 miles an hour. So yeah, that I would not survive that. I mean, the pace lap compared to an actual race lap here, I mean, well, your previous lap time, well, let's see, let's go with the regular lap times. About 1 minute 8 seconds, usually a minute 8 seconds to a minute 10 seconds, as compared to right now where we are at 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes worth of pacing. So it was tempting to go double wide there for a few moments, but held off on that and decided to plug the upcoming races here just in case anyone else is interested in the Racing Line Broadcasting Network as well. And just a little bit of a side note as well, these are going to be the only 3 series coming up and wrapping up, as well as in June for the June 13th race at Kansas here in this league. This series, essentially, it will be the last broadcast here for a while, as I'm taking a break due to, well, life and also a break. So that's been interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what comes of these final few races here in all 3 leagues here on the Racing Line Broadcasting Network. So if you are interested in that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, tune in, and, well, in case you don't have time, that's why playlists are a thing on the channel as well. So go ahead and just watch back the entire season playlist if you are interested to see how that season had went. Meanwhile, at Long Beach...
Well, it appears that we, under this caution, had a few drivers pit. Michael Hurley, Jared Dixon, and I believe Jack Anderek.
Yeah, all 3 drivers
took the opportunity to...
It's very smart. Their pit road speed, their total time on pit road was about 41.5 seconds to about 57 seconds. And it's just a little bit of a base time as well, as we'll actually go through pretty much everybody, as Jared Dixon had been on pit road for 41.5 seconds. His pit stall for 7.6 seconds. Michael Hurley had been in his pit stall for 9 seconds. He had been pit road on pit road for 43.1 seconds. Jack Andrick, the longest time on pit road, 56.9 seconds, 22.8 seconds in his pit stall. Possible. Will Roberts, the only driver still in his pit stall, unfortunately, as he had decided to tow it back. The track seems a lot longer, especially when under caution. This is one reason why. So, luckily we are going back green, and we will have a little bit of a incorrect graphic, unfortunately. Lap times, lap is showing apparently 12 total laps. And as it recorrects itself, it goes back to, I think it's because of the caution, actually. So, graphic is going to be incorrect. 25 total laps. We're going to be on lap 4 of 25 here once the pace car pulls off. As it does pull off, Mitch Welker accelerates just a little bit.
Green flag.
As the green flag is back out, it is not 10 laps to go. That graphic will correct itself in a few moments' time. So we are back side by side and immediately 3 wide. Down the front straightaway, up nearly 3 wide, as I think it was Matt Hollabaugh there on the very far left-hand side of your screen. That's trying to survive through that very, very scrambled field here as they head back down to the opening corners. There's a little bit of contact in the back there. Somebody went wide. It looks to be Evan Adams.
And the 3 wide move that went to 2 wide was Cohen Evans making a move on Brandon Minto for P8. I believe that's 8.
And it's actually position 8 as Cohen Evans.
P7, sorry. Wait,
Actually,
no.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it was P8. Sorry, that's my bad.
Nah, it's alright. It's start-finish line timing for you. As Mitch Walker, again, down in the way. Somebody just nailed the cone in the background there. As it's going to be James Pasquarello looking to the inside of Ryan Kish. Doesn't have anything. Nothing comes from that, unfortunately, as they're going to stick 3rd and 4th for the time being. Matt Hollabaugh running out the top 5. And again, back single file for the time being, as we have a few cars under a blanket here. As Matt Hollabaugh trying to get around. I believe he ran into a little bit of bad luck there, a little bit wide, as Chas McQuiston is on his right-hand side. This is a battle for position number 6 down the front straightaway. Hollabaugh could make a move entering turn number 1 here. We'll see what happens. Stays to the left-hand side, decides against it, not enough space. So Danny Roberts, remember, he started 21st, and he is now currently 10 positions up from where he had started. He is currently sitting in 11th. I assume his teammate, just judging by the paint scheme, Zachary Buchanan.
And we got a problem in what appears to be turn 5. Travis McQuiston around.
And McQuiston had spun around there off of that corner. We'll see what happened here. Possibly just lost grip. Actually, no. Just got the curbing and immediately slammed on the throttle to get off out of the racing line. Very smart move by him. A very respectable, sportsmanlike move. While you don't really think about spinning out as a sportsmanlike, well, think about it. You have to get away and off the racing line as quickly as possible. Now you're stuck battling Chris Matthews and Matthew Warner. He retains that 14th place position, a little bit wide, but he does manage to hang on to it. Meanwhile, Stanley, Welker and Stanley, 1st and 2nd respectively, they have checked out once again. Kish on his lonesome in 3rd as well. Pasquarello 4th, Carl Hendrick 5th. Matt Hollabaugh trying to hold off 6th place from Cohen Evans. Zachary Buchanan may be under fire from Cohen Evans. Looked like that for a few moments, but Buchanan managed to hang on to 7th place. Looks like the graphic has corrected itself back to the 25-lap format. As Danny Roberts tries to bear down on the back of Cohen Evans. Again, Roberts had set the fastest time in practice here before we had actually officially started the race. And he's definitely showing that speed for sure, but it may end up 4th, just judging by the previous lap times for most of these drivers. It may end up 4th at this point. So Danny Roberts doing a wonderful job here early on in this race.
And it looks like Jared Dixon with damage.
And he's off the track. I believe he immediately towed it back.
It was an incident between Jared and
Looks to be Chris Matthews. So we'll see what the replay shows here. Off the corner, Matthews gets loose. Dixon tries, it gets clipped, unfortunately. Nearly flips upside down twice. And Chris Matthews...
there's just nothing Jared could do on that. He tried to go low.
Yeah, he tried to go as low and avoid as much as possible, but that was not the case, unfortunately. However, as close as possible is once again Marshall Stanley. I'm starting to see a little bit of a pattern here as Stanley closes the gap in the hairpin, nearly bumps the one of Welker there through that corner on the exit. Somehow makes it through. So we'll see what comes of this here in just a couple of laps. Marshall Stanley was still, again, behind. He managed to stay behind Mitch Welker for pretty much the entire race, but not really enough to get an advantage or get the pass attempt on Mitch Welker. So both these drivers were so close to the wall, it messed up Irerson's prediction code to the point where we thought they had damage, they didn't. So this is how close these drivers are running here for this race. Here, quick Stanley is downshifting as well, and how careful he is on the throttle. And I know, and you can see, or you can at least see it from the racing line that he's taking. as well as, well, steering in general, and hearing it from the engine and throttle inputs that he's not really making it full throttle up until he knows he is going 100% straight on the racetrack. Now, a little bit of a bump there, very visible on Stanley, but take a look back at Ryan Kish, still in third, still fourth is James Pasquarella. Handwork nearly, yep, there goes Handwork as we was just about to switch to him. I was about to say, as he quickly reverses off the racetrack. Very, very smart move, taking advantage of that runoff there. He's going to hold off just to make sure that no one is coming by. Great awareness by Carl Hendrick on the about this racetrack, so he'll fall back from 6th to 10th, unfortunately. But luckily, with no damage whatsoever. Danny Roberts, however, to the left-hand side of Cohen Evans, entering turn 1. As Matt Hollabaugh gets a little bit loose, and he takes advantage of 2 cars in essentially 1 corner. Danny Roberts is on a roll, up to 6th now from dead last and 21st. Oh, there goes Matt Hollabaugh as we were taking a quick focus on him. Spins out. Goes from 7th to 9th instantly, unfortunately. And clutch kick it back around the opposite direction of the racing line. And he'll fall back to 10th as Carl Handwerk is back up to 9th. He's a little bit loose as well, however, as we just switch over to him. And oh, man.
Ooh, just barely missed the tire barriers there.
Yeah, Handwerk is pushing that thing as much as possible, but unfortunately it may not be the best move. It's better to just well, keep an eye on him. This is where he spun out. I thought, yeah, right there, hard into the right-hand side of the wall. Oh, he saw that happen, unfortunately, and I don't know if it's really worth the replay to really... It's Carl Hendrick. Hendrick is actually going to try and keep it going there. He's going to try and keep it going. There he goes. He's trying. There he goes. It's back up front. It's about 0.7 second difference between Stanley and Walker. Kish still third as he nearly took his right side off of that wall that's jutting out there. Zachary Buchanan sits 4th place. James Pasquarella in 5th. Danny Roberts in 6th. And might as well continue on as Cohen Evans is in 7th. 8th place is Andrew Wood. 9th place, Matt Hollabaugh. 10th place is Travis McQuiston, not too far behind. Brendan Minto in 11th. Directly behind him is Matthew Warner. And 12th, we may see a little bit of a position change there on the ticker, as Chad Frankenfield is 13th. 14th, Jack Andrick. 15th, Evan Adams, as he may be getting lapped here in just a few moments' time. Yeah, there's Mitch Walker just now getting into the fountain turn, so a few drivers left down.
Might be that that prediction code, but it looks like Marshall
Danny
Stanley
Roberts
has a little bit of damage.
Yeah, Danny Roberts, however, has for sure heavy damage. He spun out in the same place that Carl Handwerk had spun out, got the curb, but this time nailed it. Hard shot. Oh, Pasquarella, I believe, had gotten a piece of that as well. That's actually Cohen Evans that had gotten a piece of that. So Danny Roberts and Cohen Evans, unfortunately, are both essentially out of this race. For sure, Danny Roberts, and it sucks for him because he had a great run. So more than likely disappointing for him, and may not be the prediction code, but for sure, Marshall Stanley has a very sizable gap between himself and Welker. 1.7 seconds. And as of right now, 1.6 seconds now, so a little bit normal, essentially.
The lap traffic there not helping Marshall very much, just catching him in a bad spot. Came out of the hairpin that one time and just got stuck behind Mitch, who got stuck behind some lap traffic. It looked like a couple laps ago, and that just killed his run. It's going to be Mitch overtaking the lapped car of Evan Adams now. Could be making that one easier as Evan has some front wing damage. As well, going to be letting by the second place car of Marshall Stanley.
Yeah, I just saw a little bit of a bobble for Stanley. Didn't look like much, but it was a little bit obvious. So yeah, it looks like Stanley actually does have a little bit of left wing damage.
Zach Buchanan also in P4 with a little bit of damage, it looks like.
Oh man, that right front, yeah, the left, goodness, I get, unfortunately, got no directions. The left front of that wing is absolutely gone. Gonna see where that happened.
It was the exit of the
Fountain turn.
the fountain. Yeah, just cut the turn too short and.
Yeah, I was about to say, well, we're lucky. I'm not going to finish that. Well, I'm going to say because we haven't seen it yet. So we're lucky that no one has really nailed that wall, essentially. Just a little bit of a scrape by. So we've seen it often enough to know that I can say that without any issues whatsoever, hopefully. As Ryan Kish has approached lap traffic as well, making his way by. Brendan Minto also put a lap down as he is into the outermost wall on the left-hand side. He just took the corner way too fast and just nudged the outside wall there. So Minto with a lot of bad luck as well, unfortunately, early on in this race. A little bit halfway, essentially, through this race. He's back into pit road. He's actually in the pit road for the first time tonight. As Marshall Stanley makes his way by the hairpin. Little ways away behind Mitch Welker once again, back to the 1.5 second gap. Ryan Kish a little bit closer compared to last time. Zachary Buchanan definitely for sure, as Evan Adams has more problems in the hairpin as well. A lot of drivers getting left front wing damage, unfortunately.
Well, since we are just a little bit over halfway, I might as well run you through the top 5 or so here. In first position, we have Mitch Welker, who has led every lap thus far. Behind him, Marshall Stanley, still holding on to P2. Very strong race, and we'll see if he'll be able to do anything behind that. 9 seconds behind Mitch is Ryan Kish. He hasn't been in a lot of action, but he's still holding strong in P3. Behind him, Zachary Buchanan, starting 14th and trying to get a good finishing position out of this. Behind him, James Pascarella. Behind Pascarella is Cohen Evans. 27.75. Fighting Cohen Evans at the moment is Andrew Wood in P8. Matthew Hollibaugh, sorry, I've been messing that up for the past week now. Behind him, about 3 seconds back in P9 is Travis McQuiston. And rounding out your top 10, Matthew Warner, 47 seconds behind the leader, Mitch Welker.
I appreciate that. My voice needed a break there for a few moments as we're back focusing on positions 1 and 2. Marshall Stanley's left front wing is pretty much gone at this point. I hope that's prediction code because that is something Marshall does not need at the moment. Oh, man. As I say...
And it would appear it is prediction code.
Yeah, it looks like it, as Ryan Kish was around, unfortunately. He's got Zachary Buchanan bearing down on him for P3. Nope, scratch that going straight by him for P3, but... Here's the thing, Ryan Kish doesn't have a missing front wing, or at least half of a front wing. Zachary Buchanan, however, does. Let's see what happened to Ryan Kish here as he's entering this left-hand turn and just slides it around. Nothing too major, thankfully, for Ryan Kish as he is bearing down right on the back bumper.
And Andrew Wood on Cohen Evans, not going to be able to make it. Not going to be able to make the move, just a little bit too far back, but we're going to, I don't know if you have the camera on this.
Yeah.
They're going into the hairpin. Going to try and get the run on Cohen Evans, not going to have it. Cohen Evans going to be able to pull away as they head down towards turn number.
So a few battles around the entire racetrack essentially at this point, so not everyone is too far spaced out, but they are spaced out for the most part. Just everyone's selected into their everyone shuffled into their own little groups there for a few moments, and I'm very surprised that Zachary Buchanan is actually mentioned to pull away with a half of a front wing, because at this point it would have repaired itself from prediction code. So it could be that Buchanan actually does have a missing front wing, and that could be helping his aero just a little bit, oddly enough, as Marshall Stanley's closed the gap actually between himself and Mitch Welker from about 1.5 seconds earlier on throughout the majority of this and the last race to about 0.3 seconds now once again.
Now, I will say, it's kind of a thing with street circuits, but there aren't too many high-speed turns here. It's a lot of, first gear tight turns where downforce doesn't really affect you, especially in that last hairpin. It's more mechanical grip than anything, so it might not be as big a detriment as it might initially seem, but it definitely is not going to help them out too much.
Yeah, it's not going to help them out whatsoever. And speaking of not helping out, I think Marshall Stanley may have, sorry for missing the tire barriers at that turn every single lap, I believe. May have gotten a piece of the... Actually, no, it was prediction code for Marshall Stanley. Meanwhile, James Pasquarella getting passed by Andrew Wood for position number 6. So Andrew Wood and Cohen Evans trying to make their way out. This could be a battle for 5th place here in just a few moments. So Marshall Stanley did have a little bit of prediction code errors there earlier on. And somehow, some way, Marshall Stanley's managing to just barely hang on to his current position in 2nd place. So we'll see what comes of this brewing battle. As nope, for sure he's in the outside wall there just for a few moments. Oh man, well, definitely not going to work, unfortunately, for Marshall Stanley. As again, more bad luck. As if, well, one piece of bad luck wasn't enough. Well, here, have some more, says Long Beach and the street circuit in general. As well, it's impressive that I still managed to hang on for sure, Eric. But not sure how much longer he can last for this.
Well, that's just the luck of the street circuits. It's tight. It's the walls are right there at the end. It's waiting to punish you. So, it's part of what you got to do to be fast. And when you take the risk, you take the risk. And it was apparently prediction code, because on my screen it has fixed itself.
Yeah. So for Marshall Stanley, you got lucky again. As well, there goes my voice. But yeah, he's gotten lucky a few times. Look how close he's gotten. That's about as close as he's gotten outside of the hairpin to Mitch Welker. So Stanley could be making his way up. But speaking of Buchanan, he is still under fire from Ryan Kish, who actually, again, still has a full wing. Into turn 1, Kish looked down to the left-hand side as Buchanan and Kish both spin, essentially, make contact with the wall, entering turns number 1 and 2. And Kish just going to hold it there as he's going to let everybody else by as more contact. That is Andrew Wood and I believe Cohen Evans, both of those drivers battling for position. I believe Cohen Evans maybe for sure pulling off the racetrack. So Buchanan nearly had to repeat of the last race. And we had just earlier on Cohen Evans, yeah, definitely instantly towing it back to pit road. Matt Hollabaugh lucked out of that somehow, but Ryan Kish also towed it back to pit road. So both drivers overdrove the corner way too hard to the point where, well, it's just, it's either one or the other, but that time it was both of them.
Yeah, that just looked like Ryan Kish. Don't want to try and, diss him too hard. Not going to try to diss him. But it just looks like he wasn't looking at his F3 on that. And, he pulled out in front of the guys who were coming around.
Take a look on board from Cohen Evans. See what he sees coming into this first corner, and it was just bad timing overall. Evans had no idea he was there, and possibly Cohen Evans, or at least Ryan Kish, either must assume that they would have been on either side of the racetrack. And unfortunately, it was just not the case.
Well, an update on the battle for P1. Marshall Stanley within half a second on Mitch Welker as they came out of the hairpin, got a little bit loose on exit. Not a lot that he could do there. Lost a bit of ground. Went from about 0.2 to 0.8 of a second gap. Now there's a bit of lap traffic being Travis McQuistion between Mitch and Marshall. Sorry.
Yeah, oh man, Marshall Stanley every time, I swear, he is just, someone spun
there's
out.
An incident.
That's
Matthew Warner.
It's not Chad Ringenfield. Yeah, thanks. That's actually Matthew Warner. off of that corner, another one of the many right-handers of this racetrack. We'll see if he actually had a piece of the wall here. No, he was close, but he just threw it into the corner, and then the bumps and the loss of
And it's
traction.
Marshall Stanley. Marshall Stanley is around.
So here that Marshall Stanley is around. We'll actually just fast forward to this incident. As he, well, yeah, it's the same portion of the racetrack where he had nearly hit the tire barrier that time. Well, he didn't, but instead he pushed it way too hard and unfortunately destroyed both sides of the race car multiple times. And, well, yeah, at that point he's just done. He's somehow still in second, but, I mean, right now that car is pretty much destroyed, unfortunately.
That's just him pushing too hard to, you know, try and get around that lap traffic. You know, not to, you know, again, not trying to diss anybody. I want to put that out there. But as a driver, you know, the lap traffic especially, you know, you'd expect that, you know, you're not really fighting anybody around. Travis, there wasn't, I don't think he was too close to the guys ahead. Yeah, so, I mean, you would think that he would have let them by, but, you know, that's just a driver's point of view on that.
Yeah, definitely inputted my own driver's point of view, a few points as well. So Andrew Wood officially up to third, although the ticker room may show otherwise, and it does. And that is due to the update at the start-finish line. So Marshall Stanley at this point is unofficially out, more than likely not happy whatsoever. And I feel for him as well. There's multiple times where even on the restart, this is semi-related, as an oval restart, there was times where I restarted in the lead, and next thing I know, well, I'm not in the lead anymore. So it's sometimes based on luck, sometimes you just push too hard, and, well, next thing you know, you push too hard to the point where you're pretty much just out of the running for pretty much anything in this race. So Mitchell Walker could be pretty much home free at this point, although I don't really expect Zachary Buchanan to really round down 29.2 seconds, as he's all the way on the front straightaway. Mitch Walker very much ways away throughout this portion of the racetrack, so unless something major happens to Mitch Walker, like something happened to Buchanan, I mean, I'll take the commentator's curse for that for sure. But unless something happens to Mitch Walker, it's definitely going to be himself in the lead at the end of this race, with 2 laps to go, just as he gets past the hairpin here in just a couple of moments and across the start-finish line. 2 laps to go again. As Eric mentioned earlier, he's led pretty much every single lap of this race.
And it's looking like it's going to be a Project 2-1-2 to end this race off. Andrew Wood in P3 trying to tie Zachary Buchanan for most positions gained in the race. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to beat him both on track and in the positions gained battle. Going from P14 to P2 for Zach and P15 to P3 for Andrew. So, you know, I guess got to give props to Project 2. Ran fast and consistent races. Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong. And both running fast and consistent for sure. In fact, the only person that has been more fast and consistent than Project 2, or pretty much anybody else at this race, or at this series, is your points leader coming into this race, Byron Daly, who is not here this week, but he has, coming into both of these races, a 75-point gap between himself and Mitch Walker. So, Byron Daly has a pretty sizable gap to at least miss what is virtually 2 races. So, well, quite literally 2 races as well. So both these twin races are counted as 1 race each. Just connected in the same broadcast. So, we'll see what the points come to. Possibly, if not by the end of the night, then for sure by next week. As once again, we head to Michigan that week. So, coming to these final corners, it will be Mitch Walker. And, well, he's, even if he does mess up, he's pretty much home free.
And that will be the clean sweep, and I do believe leading every lap this race.
Yep.
For Mitch Welker. So shout out to Mitch Welker and the whole Project 2 gang. Zach coming back from the wreck in the first race. I'm sure that motivated him to try and go push as hard as he could this race.
And someone for sure pushing as much as he could. Coming off of the hairpin in the final corner is going to be Mitch Walker, as he's going to do a little bit of a celebratory tire clean as the sweep is complete by Mitch Walker. Zachary Buchanan going to be coming into these final corners with a definitely not prediction code, but for sure 1/2 of a wing as he nearly nails into the left-hand side of the wall there. He'll come across the start-finish line here as he takes the final turn there off of the hairpin, comes off the final turn, down the front straightaway, across the start-finish line. Zach Buchanan officially finishes second place. Andrew Wood going to be coming across and finishing in third place here. Now Hollabot rounding out the fourth place position in just a few moments if he can get to the start-finish line in time. But Andrew Wood for sure going to be coming across the start-finish line in third place, also missing 1/2 of a wing, as he lucked out, officially finishes in third. So we get an interview with Mitch Walker as well, once again for the second time, as we will wait for the official results to click in. There it goes. And your finishing results are as follows here for this race. We have, for some reason that either is correct. There we go. So we have Mitch Walker, Zachary Buchanan, and Andrew Wood, as Buchanan just slings it into a burnout there. Zachary Buchanan second, third place Andrew Wood. Matt Hollabach, Chad Frankenfield running out fourth and fifth place. Matthew Warner, Brendan Minto, Jack Enderick, Evan Adams, and Marshall Stanley round out 6th through 10th. Rest of your field as follows: Travis McQuiston, Ryan Kish, Cohen Evans, James Pasquarello, Don Runkle Jr., 11th through 15th. Danny Roberts, Carl Handrook, Michael Hurley, Chris Matthews, and Jared Dixon, 16th through 20th. And Will Roberts, unfortunately, getting involved in an early incident. Essentially, the first few laps of this race finishes in 21st, 24 laps down. So we're going to take a quick break here and interview Mitch Walker for the second time tonight. And in just a few moments here at Long Beach. This is the Racing Line Broadcasting Network with the Fuel Jetstream Media IndyCar Series. Don't go anywhere. Back live here on the Racing Line Broadcasting Network with your impromptu top 3 interview here with Andrew Wood being up first here. So congratulations to you, Andrew Wood. You started 15th, as apparently I forgot how settings work over here on my end, but aside from that, you started 15th and managed to end up 3rd place after missing half of a wing and a little bit of a bent right front portion of that wing as well. So is there, what was the major difference between that? Because you seem to have somehow managed to just power your way through.
Yeah, that second race was definitely crazy coming from the back. You know, like, you just know that some of the guys that are a little slower and a little off the pace and just kind of trying to save their cars are not really battling too much. So there's quite a difference in pace and, you know, like letting people through and trying to figure out where people are going and stuff. So yeah, it was a pretty carnage filled race for me. Yeah, I battled with Cohen for many laps there, and unfortunately we got hung up in Ryan's turn 1 incident there, and I feel bad that I hit him, and you know, he kind of got flipped up on his side, and I just got lucky that I had the front wing damage only. But I only had, you know, 10 seconds or so back to the next car, so I knew that if I just kept pace and toned it down a bit, that I'd stay where I was.
Yeah, it definitely worked out for you for sure. So nice rundown of your race as well. So before we go ahead and let you go, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for your 3rd place finish?
Yeah, of course, Will for running the league. He does a great job and really kind of thought on his feet there when we had some server problems. So good job to him and good job to all the rest of the guys that back him up. Thanks to you guys in the booth for, you know, putting on the broadcast tonight. Hopefully it was a good one. I'll check it out soon enough. And I'm going to shout out my teammate, James Pascarella, for I spotted him in the first race after I took myself out, and then he kind of looked after me in the second race after he had his unfortunate incident. So good job all around, guys.
I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Congratulations again on your 3rd place finish.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
So that is Andrew Wood, driver of the number 32. And next up is going to be the pole sitter of the first race, I should say, Zachary Buchanan, who managed to redeem himself here in this second race.
Hello.
Yeah,
so yeah, that was an interesting race for me. Interesting night.
Yeah, it was definitely a crazy night for you for sure. Especially it was more of an up and down night, it seems, especially because you were just not really all over the place quite literally, but at the same time figuratively. So how was that after unfortunately wrecking out from pole position in the first race to this one?
It feels good, but at the same time, I can't help but feel like it was a bit of a fluke. There were lots of guys who were as quick or quicker than me during the race that it didn't work out for them, and I barely survived the race myself. So it was a big race of attrition, and I'm trying not to tell myself that it was a fluke result, but that's what it feels like to me.
It's more like luck than a fluke.
I guess so. I mean, if anything, I'm just happy that I got through a lot of the chaos at the start and was able to bring it home after losing my wing to Dawn and putting it in the wall near Ryan.
Yeah, and luckily you did manage to pull off a 1-2 finish as well for Project 2, so there is that to look ahead for as well, and maybe a very clear advancement in the point standings. Still going to have to wait to figure that out for at least a confirmation once that gets updated. But before we go ahead and let you go, anyone that you have to give a shout out to for your 2nd place finish?
I'd like to give a shout out to Ryan for spinning out and not passing me. I'm kidding. Nothing really in particular.
Well, if that is the case, we're going to go ahead and let you go early on. So we're going to go ahead and let you go early. So congratulations again on your 2nd place finish.
All right, thanks, guys.
And that is Zachary Buchanan. And finally, last up, goodness, if I can speak English here for a second. Last up is going to be the one and the only, the 2-time race winner of Long Beach, as we had spoken to him before, Mitch Walker. So You got a little bit luckier early on, actually, as well, this time you didn't really have to hold anybody off.
Yeah, that's right. It was almost the same lineup here. We had just me and Marshall, and then Marshall had some issues, and I just kind of got to relax for the first time on that.
Yeah, you had. It looked like you had a commanding lead. It looked like you weren't pushing too incredibly hard. What were you feeling throughout the race?
Well, the part when Marshall was behind me, it was like, get this guy off of me, and I kept using push to pass occasionally down the front, trying to get him off me, just focusing out front, you know. And then when he spun and Zach caught up to me, or caught up to Ryan, I'm sorry, when he spun, and we had the 1-2 secure. I just kind of settled down, and I knew it was.
Yeah, it was definitely pure luck for you. So this may actually help out in the point standings as well, as well. Byron Daly either wasn't available or just purposely decided to sit this week out to see what kind of a gap could happen here, or at least what kind of a gap would play out after this race. So 75 points separate him and you coming into this race, Walker. So gonna see how, unless that has been updated, still gonna double check on that. But aside from that, though, actually has been updated. So update on that. Projected, I believe that's assuming bonus points have not been added. 54 points now separate you and Byron Daly, so not too terrible.
No, and I think that's only the first race as well, because you can get up to 25 points.
Yeah.
For winning the race. So
they may have.
I think we're still waiting. I think we're still waiting in the second race results here for that. But yeah, still a really good chunk of points taken out, and that'll definitely help me with Project 2 time going forward.
Before we go ahead and let you go, is there anyone that you'd like to once again give a shout out to for your race win here tonight?
Yeah, shout out to Marshall for keeping me on my toes almost all night. That was a ton of fun racing him, and just wouldn't be the same if he wasn't there pushing.
We're going to go ahead and let you go. Congratulations again on your second race win of the night.
Thank you.
So that was your race winner, Mitch Walker. And before we go ahead and sign off, Eric, any closing thoughts here from Long Beach?
Well, I think my prediction came true. The second race was a little bit more hectic because there was less to lose. You weren't qualifying for another race like you were in the first race. I got a feel for my driver there, Jared Dixon, got taken out, or wrecked out of both races. You hate to see it as a team owner, but.
Yep, hold on a second. Actually, forgot for some reason. I forgot these graphics aren't set for dual sound, so apologies for that, as I should somehow learn how to fix that. There we go. But yeah, it is a shame as a team owner to see that happen for sure.
Yeah, trying not to, give too much emotions into things, but yeah, I think
racing. It happens.
People, that's how it is. You gotta just, it be like that sometimes. So, overall, I think we had a really good race. Congratulations to Mitch Welker for for the clean sweep and leading all the laps in that last race. Big thanks to Will Roberts for putting on such a good show, and definitely an even bigger thanks to all the guys who came out and raced today for being out there and just in general, putting on the race.
Yeah, it's definitely a great show overall, and only one caution throughout 50 laps of racing for 2 laps, so not too terrible whatsoever. So before we go ahead and sign off, just again, another quick reminder on the upcoming races here on the Racing Line Broadcasting Network. We have the Cage Cup Series this coming Sunday at 8:40 p.m. Eastern Time with their Auto Club Speedway race. And then the following Monday, that following Monday will be the Bristol race, 200 laps in the trucks with the Red Light Scrambler Series, with 8 drivers trying to fight it out to be in the top 4 as they head to their third to last race in the playoffs in total. And next week is Michigan for the Fuel Jetstream Media IndyCar Series, 125 laps scheduled for that race. So as we go ahead and sign off from Long Beach. Congratulations again to Mitch Walker for both of his wins here tonight. For Eric Gonzalez, I am Gary Weaver, and we hope to see you next time. Good night from Long Beach.